Welcome. I'm Yvonne Davis, author, astrologer, and life transformation coach. And today's video is December predictions. I'm going to be talking about the shift of energy in December 2020, which is massive. And I think we're all going to enjoy it, and I'll explain why. So before I get started, just want to say a few things. If you're new to this channel, please click on the red button down there and subscribe to my channel. And if you would be willing to go over to my Financial Freedom channel and also subscribe to that, that would be super helpful. There's a link in the description box below, pinned to the top of the comments, and I'll put one up here too and at the end of this video. So I'm building that channel, and in December I'm going to be on the road, and I'm going to be much more nomadic. So I'm going to be talking about what it's like to be a YouTuber and to be self-employed, to have my business online, to be a digital nomad. And if that way, if you think that this is something you might want to do on a part-time or full-time basis, maybe it's just an interest you have in a side hustle, or maybe you're actually interested in creating a whole new career. I'm going to basically want to teach you everything I know on that Financial Freedom channel, but I need to build it so that I can monetize it and get it out to the public. So if you want to support my work, please go over there and subscribe to that channel. It will help tremendously. All right, so one other thing I want to say is I made a video titled The Next 12 Years of Power. And I am really happy with the video and the information I'm sharing, but it ended up being 50 minutes, and I think I might try to edit it into 2 parts. So I'm not going to upload it immediately here on YouTube, but I am going to go ahead and upload it in advance on Patreon. So if you're interested in seeing that, Patreon offers free gifts to any tier, and it tells you on the tiers. And then also you can get advanced viewing, exclusive videos, and it's all ad-free. Plus I do group Zoom meetings through Patreon. So we're actually going to have one this coming Friday at 4:30 Mountain Time. So if you're interested in that more in-depth information and getting it right away, and joining us on Patreon or getting the gifts, whatever interests you, go on over to Patreon. There's a link below and at the end of this video. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the energies in December. So I'm going to pull up a chart here to get us oriented. All right, so I set this chart for today, December 1st at 2:51 p.m. in Washington, D.C., so basically Eastern time. So you can just adjust for your time zone, but basically Mercury is going to shift into Sagittarius in the early afternoon, okay? And we can already feel the shift in energy. So the full moon eclipse is now past. It happened yesterday, so that's past tense now. And now we're entering December, and we will feel massive shifts in energy. I would expect that you've already felt something or experienced something or know something has been illuminated for you with that full moon eclipse, which should indicate either an answer to a question or bringing something to an end or close, to culmination or fruition. It could be something dramatic because this is an eclipse, and eclipses are 3 times more powerful than regular full moons, and they do bring life change. And so depending on how it landed in your chart, you may know exactly what that is. You should know by now that the full moon has actually passed. That doesn't mean that the event has passed, but you should at least know what this is relating to. You should have received an answer to a question that you had with the illumination of the full moon, or you have seen what it is in your life that is coming to an end, coming to a close, coming to fruition or culmination, like ending one chapter, beginning a new chapter, closing one door, opening a new door. or at least a shift in like phase, like one phase of something in your life has changed or ended and you're shifting into a new phase, okay? But in some way that energy is going to manifest in that way. It manifests in different ways at different levels, like levels of power or impact based on how it lands in your chart. So this was not a full moon eclipse. It was it was a full moon eclipse. What I mean is it wasn't a total full moon eclipse. It was a partial full moon eclipse. So that means that the power isn't quite as strong as it would be for a total full moon eclipse. And also it depends on how it landed in your chart. So I think everyone should have felt this or be feeling it now or know what this is relating to in your life. And if for some reason, like you didn't notice anything, either there's a delayed effect, sometimes that does happen. For about 10% of the people, the full moon eclipse will actually be activated at the next full moon a month from now, okay? And so that would be at the end of December. So, but one way or another, I think the vast majority of you know exactly what this is related to. And I think that's helpful, to have that clarity, like that sense of this is past, this is future, and you know what that's all about. Again, if it's not having an impact, that's probably just because of the fact that it's not a total eclipse, or it's not landing in your chart in a way that's impacting anything in your chart, or you'll be one of those 10% that gets the delayed reaction a month from now. But most of you should know what this is related to. So now we're starting a new month with new energies, and we're moving toward the new moon. And that's also eclipse, and it's in fact actually a total new moon eclipse. So this should be really powerful. And we're certainly going to see it on a national level, no doubt, which I have talked about many, many past videos. So this takes place on December 14th, 2020 at 11:16 a.m. in Washington, D.C. So on the East Coast, you can adjust for your time zone. This new moon eclipse happens at 23 degrees of Sagittarius, conjunct Mercury direct and the South Node, okay? So at this point, we've got all this energy in fire, and it's trining Mars direct in Aries. So that's a lot of fire energy, but it's in a trine. So that we're going to be like, we're really going to feel the shift in energy. And we still got Venus in Scorpio. As we enter December, Venus is in Scorpio. At the time of this new moon eclipse, Venus is still in Scorpio, but as you can see, she's at 28 degrees, 45 minutes of Scorpio. So she's going to be moving into Sagittarius probably on the 16th, I would say. If it happens earlier than that, then it would be late on the 15th, okay? Yeah, actually, that might be it. It might actually even happen on the 15th, but that's about the time frame. So about the middle of December, we are going to feel an absolutely dramatic shift in energy. I mean, we're already going to feel it now in the first 2 weeks with Mercury moving into Sagittarius, and that full moon eclipse is past tense. We are really going to feel this forward movement. And I mean, it just like really culminates with this new moon eclipse conjunct Mercury in the South Node. That's a total new moon eclipse in Sagittarius. So that's a fire energy, super potent, super like we want to really go forward. We are so ready to go forward with this new beginning, with this fire energy of this new moon conjunct Mercury in Sagittarius, trining Mars in Aries. I mean, that fire energy is just so incredibly potent, and it's harmonious, and it will really give us a boost of energy to move forward. So this is really exciting. We're going to feel it already starting today, but the closer we get to that new moon eclipse, the more powerful this energy will become, to the point where it feels like a huge catalyst, like a huge launching point, like launching a rocket. Super, super exciting. So some metaphors or imagery that's coming up is that idea of launching a rocket into space, or a race car, you know, like revving the engine, rev, 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 boom, take off. And or another metaphor is like a horse, a race horse behind the gate. It's just like he's snorting and he's hoofing and he's like so ready. Just open that gate, boom, let's go. So that is some really, really powerful energy, and it's going to feel really, really good, because I think we are getting really tired of this, this like Capricorn energy, and even the Scorpio energy, and even though Neptune's not going to leave Pisces, it's just there's been a really heavy energy with Pluto in Capricorn and Jupiter in Capricorn and Saturn in Capricorn. Now, Pluto's been there since around Thanksgiving of 2008. So basically 12 years. And it will stay there until its first shift into Aquarius in March of 2023. Okay. And so, you know, so we still got all of 2021 and 2022. And it's going to be doing its work of transformation. That's what it does, transformation and empowerment. And it does relate to governing bodies and institutions, and basically like the accumulation of wealth and power. And this is what I'm going to talk about in this video, which will be kind of a primer to the next video that I made about the next 12 years of power in the US, which, like I said, I'm just looking at editing that into 2 parts. But if you want to see that right away, I'm going to post it on Patreon either later today or early tomorrow morning. So yeah, so the idea is like Pluto will still be there for another 2+ years solidly in Capricorn, making a conjunction to our nation's natal Pluto. Pluto return is all about transformation. So Pluto is about power and wealth, and it's the accumulation of power and wealth. It's great power and wealth, okay? And unfortunately, the shadow of Pluto is corruption, and how people lord power over others. They lord their power and wealth because they've accumulated, you know. This is great power and wealth. This is plutocracy. So the shadow of Pluto is corruption and disempowering others, okay? And so these are the issues that we were going to be facing in the coming 4 years. Again, I'm talking largely about that in the next video, the next 12 years of power. Fortunately, well, let me just say a little bit more about how long Saturn's been in Capricorn now, which is basically 2.5 years. So Pluto's been there for 12 years already. Saturn was there for 2.5 years, and Jupiter was there for a full year. And we saw what this past year was like. It was some pretty heavy energy, heavy, slogging, burdensome, really weighed down by that Capricorn energy. That is the nature of Capricorn energy. And the reason for it is because just like weight and gravity, you know, and carrying a burden and responsibility and obligations and duties, that makes us stronger. So if you carried that burden in a way that really had to do with focusing on internal locus of control, like how are you in control, and how do you have power in your own life, and how can you manifest that internal locus of control? How can you manifest your own power in the world? If you did that, and if you did it with integrity, then you will definitely definitely get the rewards. Okay, this was not a year of taking things away. It was a year of testing us. Okay. And when the energy of Saturn and Jupiter move into Aquarius, you will absolutely be able to feel it. It will feel like a huge lifting of weight and burden, almost like you can breathe again. Because the energy of Capricorn is an earth energy and it has weighed us down, you know, like that energy is almost feels like it's buried in the ground, literally. Pluto is the god of the underworld, and Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. Jupiter does not feel at its best in Capricorn because the energy doesn't blend. The energy of Jupiter doesn't quite blend with the Capricorn energy. That's called being in detriment. I don't see that as a bad thing, though. You know, people talk about it as being something bad. I mean, that's the way they, you know, people interpret that as like that's something bad. I've never ever thought of, even though the word detriment sounds like it's something bad, I've never thought of it that way. It's just, it allows us to access a different part of ourselves that we would not normally access because Jupiter's energy does not feel fully comfortable in Capricorn. And yet it's good for us to do that. You know, once every 12 years, Jupiter goes through Capricorn for a year and it helps us to access a different part of our being. And that is actually a good thing. And we will benefit from it. But fortunately, we're almost done, okay, with this year of Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn in Capricorn. We're almost done, and it is going to feel so good to get that energy out of being buried in the earth and come out into the air, just like completely freed up in the air. Now we can breathe. We'll feel so much freer. I mean, we will really notice the energy shift, especially when Jupiter gets into Aquarius. But I think we'll even feel it with Saturn. But Saturn's probably going to bring a shift like it did the last time. The last time it shifted from 29 degrees of Capricorn into 0 degrees of Aquarius. That was in April, and we felt that's when we had to experience the lockdown. And so we all got locked down because Saturn is all about, well, Aquarius is humanity and Saturn is all about restriction. So we felt like humanity was being restricted. And by the way, the stock market crashed when Saturn was at 29 degrees of Capricorn, and we went into the lockdown. We had that constriction limitation of the stock market, the economy, our movements, the movement of humanity. And then it put us online because Aquarius also rules the internet and being online, okay, in all our digital interactions. So we became much more digital. We got more online, much more activity on the internet. And that, I expect that to happen again. It may not be quite as intense as it was in April, because whenever you get like the third time through, because it went through in April and then it came back into Capricorn, and now it's going to go out again and won't return to Capricorn for another 29 years or so. So yeah, we'll feel the shift, but it may not be as intense as it was in April, because the third time across those degrees usually is not as intense as the first time. So, and then when Jupiter comes in, it's a whole new game. It's a whole new game. So before I shift into that chart, which is, so the new moon eclipse is December 14th. Yes, we will definitely feel this powerful fire energy, trining energy. It's fabulous. And it's very potent because of the new moon eclipse. It will definitely, it's like throwing a pebble into a pond and it ripples outward, or knocking a domino and there's a domino effect. So there's a chain reaction with a full moon. With a new moon eclipse, any kind of eclipse. There's this chain reaction that gets kicked off and then it ripples out. and it'll ripple out for at least 6 months. Okay, because it's bringing life changes, but we'll be able to feel it right off the bat, and it'll feel really good and really powerful. Okay, so now I'm going to shift over to the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. And so like I said, we got to enjoy the energy of the eclipse. Now we've got Venus in Sagittarius, 7 degrees of Sagittarius, 36 minutes. So no more Scorpio energy. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. So, having those 3 outer planets in Capricorn felt really heavy for the past year. And then having Venus and Mercury in Scorpio at the same time felt really, really heavy. And so we're really going to feel the lifting of energy in December, first with Mercury into Sagittarius, and then the new moon eclipse on December 14th. And then as we move further into December, on the 17th, we get Saturn in Aquarius. Okay, this is the 21st when Saturn and Jupiter conjoin, but Saturn will actually move into Aquarius on December 17th. Venus will move into Sagittarius around the 10th. Okay, so yeah, so today we get Mercury in Sagittarius. On the 10th, we get Venus into Sagittarius. On the 14th, we get the new moon eclipse. And then on December 17th, we get Saturn into Aquarius. And then on December 19th, we get Jupiter into Aquarius. And then on December 21st, which is the solar, equinox, or the winter equinox. No, I'm saying that wrong. Solstice, that's what I meant to say. The winter solstice on December 21st coincides with the great Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in 0 degrees of Aquarius. And again, I am definitely going to talk about this in that next video, 1 or 2-parter called The Next 12 Years of Power in the U.S. And I will upload that early to Patreon if you're interested. This shift in energy is just going to feel absolutely fantastic. And there's one more chart that I'm not going to go into a huge amount of discussion about the Jupiter-Saturn, other than it will feel like a huge relief, and it will bring solutions, especially Jupiter. The energy will shift, and Jupiter in Aquarius will bring tremendous solutions, okay? Solutions to problems. Those solutions will probably look like a vaccine and stimulus money. I think those are the 2 ways that the 2 primary predictions I'll make in terms of what kind of solutions Jupiter is going to bring when it comes into Aquarius. Maybe not immediately, because it may be restricted by its conjunction to Saturn, but once it moves away from Saturn, you'll really feel it. And I talk about that a lot more in that other video, The Next 12 Years of Power. All right, so I think there's one more chart that I want to show you for December. That's the full moon. So let me pause this and I'll draw up that chart. All right, so let's go look at that final full moon of December. And this full moon in December takes place on December 29th at 10:28 p.m. in Washington, D.C. So that's East Coast time. So you can adjust for your time zone. And we're back into the earthy energy of Capricorn with the Sun and Mercury and Pluto there. And then the full moon is in the water energy of Cancer. And I'm not going to do an in-depth interpretation of this chart. I'll do that later in the month as we get closer to it. But when we get into all of the planets in Aquarius with the new moon in Aquarius, oh my God, it will be so different. And I actually did a video about that already. So just look at my last video that I did. I talked about all that new energy in Aquarius, which is just going to feel so good. It's so exciting. But even in December, we've still got Venus in Sagittarius, the South Node in Sagittarius. We've got Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius. Now Jupiter's beginning to separate from Saturn and free up Jupiter's energy from the constraints of Saturn. We've still got Mars in Aries, forming a trine to these energies in Sagittarius, and a sextile to these energies like the North Node in Gemini. So there's still a lot of air and fire energy. And the full moon with the sun in Capricorn and the moon in Cancer still brings us back to these ideas around money, finances, the material world. This is all about the material world, okay? And sometimes, you know, that does feel a little bit burdensome because of that Saturn energy really brings us down to earth in a way that we may not always want to be. And it can still feel a little bit heavy and burdensome. And the moon will feel emotional. So yeah, you're still going to feel that. And also, but this energy is trining with Uranus, so that's good. And then the squaring of the energy in Aquarius to the energy in Taurus that will cluster around Uranus is going to be all about what's coming next. And like I said, I am going to talk about that in that next video, the next 12 years of power. So you can wait for that on YouTube, or you can go over to Patreon and see that early. All right, so let's see here. I think the one last thing I want to say about the Aquarius energy squaring the Uranus and Taurus energy is that, which is interesting because Uranus rules Aquarius, okay? But the energy is squaring, so it does kind of feel like it's a little bit of a fighting kind of energy, you know, like a little bit of a conflict kind of energy, which gets to its it'll get to its extreme point. It kind of reaches a peak on Inauguration Day, which I've already talked about in past videos, but I'll talk about more as we move closer to that time frame. But it's a fighting energy because Uranus is rebellious. And it has to integrate, you know, and that's what I'm talking about in the next 12 years of power, is that there's going to be a need to integrate this Uranian Aquarian energy. It's not going to happen automatically by itself. It will require people to raise their consciousness to a higher level. And really, it's the responsibility of those people who have the capacity to raise their consciousness to a higher level, because there's this wonderful book called Power versus Force. And the idea is that like he actually puts it into a numeric formula, and it makes it so easy to understand that those with higher consciousness, who are vibrating at a higher level of consciousness, actually put that energy into like the morphogenic field, the collective consciousness, and are able to raise the consciousness of all of humanity in a way that is much stronger than the lower energies. So, you know, he says like someone who's at the highest level, the highest levels are a state of being where a person lives fully in, it's like an enlightened state, fully in gratitude and unconditional love. And that is like 10,000 times more powerful than people who are living in fear and shame and hatred. And so one person living the higher levels of energy, that higher level of consciousness is magnified. So, you know, your level of energy, wherever you're at, could be 1,000 times more powerful than people living in fear and hatred and shame, as opposed, you know, or 100 times more powerful, 10 times more powerful. But the point is that those higher levels of consciousness are absolutely more powerful than the lower levels of consciousness. So if it matters to you and you want to do your part, then definitely work on your own healing. Don't look at other people to do their healing. You only work on your own healing. Okay. That's the way you do the healing work. That's the way you do the integration work, is you heal yourself. And then, like I said, that raises your level of consciousness, and then you become 10 times more powerful, 100 times more powerful, 1,000 times more powerful. Or if you become enlightened, 10,000 times more powerful, you know. But again, it doesn't work if you look outside and say, well, they have to do this or they're going to do that, or, you know, it's never about looking out. It's only about looking in and doing your own healing work. That's the only way it works, unfortunately, because I know a lot of people, you know, the lower energy is the one that goes out and blames because it sometimes feels better. It's like, you know, sometimes it actually feels good. It's almost like an addiction, you know, like to say, oh, those people are so screwed up, they're wrong. If, you know, we're right, they're wrong. And it feels good. It's almost like an addiction, you know, it gives you the sense of power because you're right and they're wrong. But actually that doesn't change. That doesn't change the consciousness vibration. So the only way to change the consciousness vibration is to do your inner healing, and then you magnify that out into the world. So anyway, it's just, you know, it's everybody's choice. There's nobody who can tell you you have to do that. You can only choose that for yourself if that's what you want. But that is going to be the message of us moving forward with all this energy in Aquarius, which is the ruler of humanity and humanitarianism and consciousness. Sagittarius and Jupiter also rule consciousness. And Neptune and Pisces, when it's in its light side, its more enlightened side, it rules the collective and compassion for the collective. So there are a lot of really powerful energies for healing on a personal level and a collective level. But we have to make that choice. But that is what we're moving toward with all this energy shifting into Aquarius. And then the last one will be Pluto into Aquarius, which happens first in March of 2023. So we're moving into really, really exciting times for humanity. And because the eclipses, the first eclipse in August of 2017 crossed the United States and landed directly on Donald Trump's ascendant. And then there's another eclipse in 2024 that crosses right over the United States in the other direction. And so there's this like X across with the two eclipses, one in August 2017 and the other in 2024. And basically what's it doing is it's forcing us, also with the Pluto, return to Pluto in our Declaration of Independence chart, it's forcing us as a nation to do our inner work, to do our healing work, to do our integration work, not pointing, because that won't do any good, only working on the self, healing the self, healing the way we think about things, the way we create our reality in our mind, and then the way we express that out into the world, and doing that in a way that heals the self and then reflects outwardly that healing. It happens by itself. You can't like force it. If you just work on your healing, it automatically puts that out into the collective. So you don't even have to look out there at the collective. All you have to do is work on your own self and your own healing. And if you change that, if you change your own consciousness and the way you create reality in your own mind, it naturally gets poured out into the consciousness of the collective. So so we're in very, very exciting times. And the reason why the US has to do its healing work in this very special way because of the eclipses crossing the United States is because we're supposed to be a leader. Okay, we're supposed to do our healing work first so that we can become leaders for the world and show the world how we've done this, and help them, because then we lift our consciousness as a nation. That lifts all of humanity. Okay. But again, it's not about pointing outward. Absolutely not. The pointing outward is the building of the shadow, the creating of the shadow, which I talk about in the next video, the next 12 years of power, how pointing outward creates the shadow. It doesn't do any healing. It doesn't integrate, it actually fragments. So the only way to do the healing and integration is to work on the self, the healing of the self, and then that pours out into the collective consciousness. All right, so very exciting month up ahead. December is so exciting. And I know myself, I've just like almost been holding my breath for December. I'm so excited. It's finally here. And I know we're gonna feel so much better. We are really going to notice the difference, and it's going to feel really good. So so I hope you enjoy it. And as always, if you haven't yet subscribed, please click on the red button and subscribe to my channel. And if you're willing to go over to Financial Freedom and subscribe to that and help me build that channel, I really appreciate it. Very simple, free thing you can do to support my work and help others who might benefit from that information. And also, if you want to get advanced viewing videos like the next 12 years of power, I'll be putting that over on Patreon either later today or tomorrow morning. And so you can view that if you want to become a patron and join the group Zoom sessions on Friday at 4:30 p.m. Mountain Time. And of course, I want to thank you for liking this video and sharing with friends and family and on social media. And thank you for leaving your comments. And I think that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this to a close now. And I will see you again in the next video. Bye-bye.